20 minutes, half an hour into davening. So I'm already in shul, in the main shul. I hear a tremendous bang. And then two men, the first acts of many acts of quick thinking. Two men run into shul, into the main part of the shul, shouting at us to close the doors, close the windows, because someone is trying to get him.
The holiest day of the year turned into the saddest day of the year in Manchester. Bravely, Rabbi Daniel Walker and others risked their lives, some even gave their lives to protect their brothers and sisters. This is the story of a shul that is broken but will never give up. This episode is in memory of Shimon David ben Yaakov Shleima and Miriam Sarah bas Yaakov Moshe. This episode is Refuah Shleima Yosef Chaim ben Devorah Chaya Golda. This episode is powered by Shiloh's Israel Children, Wheels to Lease, Touro, and Feldheim. And be sure to stick around to the very, very end of the episode because Living Chaim just launched a brand new and free tool that honestly is a game changer. Here we go. Rabbi Daniel Walker, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
A pleasure.
Thank you. There's a lot to discuss. So could we discuss how you got to, I guess, your position? Where did you grow up? What's your background?
Okay, interesting question. I am local. So I was born and bred in Manchester, not 5 minutes away from where I live at the moment. But I spent time in America and in Israel in the middle. And I came back here to England about 20 years ago. I had a Chabad house just a little bit south of here. And I've been Rav of the shul now for 18 years, Heaton Park.
Wow. Did you growing up think that you're going to go into the rabbinate or did it just, I guess, happen?
It's a good question. No, I don't think I did really. It was a little bit of a journey. I did quite a few different things in the middle. And by Shkochar Potis, really, I found myself where I am. It wasn't any great planning on my part. I did a few different things. I worked in yeshivas, I worked in SEMS, I worked in a bank for a while. I did a few different things. So Shkochar Potis brought me first of all to a Chabad house and then here to the shul.
It's interesting that you grew up there and then you went through this whole journey. They actually ended up back to where you're from.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really thought I left when I was 17. When I went to Yeshiva Gedolah at 17, I didn't think I was coming back. But yeah, they had other plans. So I literally live almost on the same road, an extension of the same road that I grew up on.
Oh, wow. That is, super.
It was a bit of a circle to come back.
I do want to ask you about, obviously your name and your shul, unfortunately, has been in the news. As much as you're comfortable, could you take us through this past Yom Kippur?
Yeah. To be honest, like I said to you, it is difficult for me to talk about some of the details. I'll do my best without going into perhaps too much detail. It's really quite hard to know where to start. So it all started about 9 o'clock in the morning. It started just as davening was starting. The security team, that's a professional security team and volunteers who played a really important role in all of this, became aware of someone behaving suspiciously. I wasn't present there at the time. I'm not exactly sure how, but they knew he was behaving suspiciously and their alert levels were heightened. I was coming to shul right about that time. And they told me that they're concerned, but they don't think anything major. They just think it was someone behaving not appropriately, but they didn't think it was anything major. Into about 20 minutes, half an hour into davening. So I'm already in shul, in the main shul. I hear a tremendous bang. And then two men, the first acts of many acts of quick thinking. Two men run into shul, into the main part of the shul, shouting at us to close the doors, close the windows, because someone is trying to get him. And as I became aware after what had happened is that, struggle for words, we'll call him the attacker, had got into a car and after he'd been around the shul, he'd gone back to wherever he came from, he got into his car and he had deliberately crashed his car into the gate entrance area where a security guard was standing, and he drove his car into that security guard, very badly injuring him. He's still in hospital. He's Baruch Hashem on the mend, but he's still in hospital. The volunteer security, so the members of the shul were standing around the gate area, just internally into the gate area, One of them very, very quickly, with very great bravery, ran towards the shul to ask people to lock the doors, essentially. And from what I understand, the attacker got out of his car and he was chasing him. And this is not necessarily, he's not a man in his 20s. And he, with great bravery, ran into the shul, got to the front doors, locked the front doors, so that the attacker's goal it was to get inside wasn't able to get inside. In the same time, another one of the volunteers who was outside, a man who was trained by the CST, which is the community's security trust, the people who are in dual security. He went to essentially intercept the attacker, and he struggled with him, and he was very badly stabbed. He, Baruch Hashem, is out of hospital. He's on the mend, but again, it's a long journey. But because he did that, because he ran towards this person to stop him, he gave time to the other man to run inside and tell everyone and to lock the doors. One thing which I only became aware of a little later, a lot later, at the end of the day after Yom Kippur, was that when he crashed his car, the attacker jumped out of his car, and one of our mispalim was coming into the gate. A very, very special and good man called Melvin. He was coming into davening, and when the attack began, he was there about to walk into the shul gates, and the attacker jumped out and killed him. He was murdered there, just in the entrance to the shul, and he was one of the casualties, one of our Kadosha. He was a very, very special and good man. And yeah, we really, really miss him. So in the meantime, Beres, I won't give you all of the arichas, but the very badly wounded man has managed to get into the shul as well. And the doors have been locked again. Now, in the meantime, I was in the main shul. So in the meantime, a man called Adrian, who will become important in the story later, when the first man ran in shouting, close the doors, he'd run to our emergency doors. They were like fire escapes that were open. And he'd close those doors. He'd close that door. And as we now know, the attacker did go around the back. So by him doing that, he also saved everybody's lives. The attack was terrible, but as an ambulance man told me, they expected it to have been much, 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 much worse. And the reason why it wasn't much worse is because those men managed to secure the building very, very quickly so that he was stuck outside and he couldn't get inside to where the vast majority of everyone, of course, was. At that point, I became aware. I came out of the shul. I came and saw what was going on, and we had one very badly injured man, and then the attacker was trying to bank his way, to shoulder barge his way into the building, slamming against the doors. And at that point, a whole bunch of men came and we held the doors to make sure that he wasn't able to force his way through them. So he was throwing things. He was attacking the windows with his knife. We also noticed that he had what looked like a bomb belt on him as well at that point. It was all quite, we have someone there who was already quite badly injured. From what I understand from media reports and from the police, it only went on for about 7 minutes. I have to say, it felt like a lot longer. But the police arrived, armed police, and they shot him. So they obviously asked him to surrender, and they shot him. But in the process of them shooting him, a bullet came through the door and hit two men who were standing by the doors, holding the doors. One of them, a young man, was again badly injured. Baruch Hashem, again, he's very much on the mend. Well, he has a journey. Okay. And one of the men was hit by the bullet, and Adrian, who had been so heroic before, died Akidat Hashem there in the foyer when he was hit by a bullet that came through. And then not long after that, the police finished neutralizing him, and then they came into the building and they did everything they needed to do, and then they evacuated us and so on. I guess that's the second part of the story, what happened to us after that, but that's in a nutshell what happened.
Thank you for sharing that. What was the first thought that went through your mind when you I don't know if you fully understood what was going on, but getting some concept of what was happening?
So I definitely didn't understand what was going on. So my first focus was the man who was injured. So without even really understanding why he was injured, that was the first very visible thing. He was badly injured. So I think that was the first thing. And then very quickly you become aware of rather large human beings throwing themselves against the doors and screaming threats and blasphemies and etc. So I guess the mind cycles from one thing to the next quite quickly. And yeah, we realized quite quickly this was what was going on.
As those 7 minutes after they passed, I meant still, at looking back, we could, I guess, know that, okay, things calmed down at that point from a threat level. But
unfortunately, it didn't really. They got worse in many ways.
Okay,
because two people were badly wounded by that bullet. Well, one person was badly wounded and one person was killed by that bullet. So in essence, really things actually went worse.
Right.
Yeah. There was just one injured person. There was now 3 injured persons, one of whom passed away. Injured people.
So what occurred at that point once?
So when the police get in, they begin, of course, doing first aid and so on. And then there's the fire brigade and the ambulance services. And there was just this, an alert went out across the whole northwest of England. And there was just this inpouring of armed police. Every emergency service you could imagine was on the scene. And because obviously they didn't know what it was. They thought maybe multiple attackers. So they basically all came. And first of all, they evacuated the wounded, obviously. But then they evacuated all of us because they weren't sure if the bomb belt was actually a viable device. So actually evacuated almost the whole area. So where our shul is, there's apartment buildings next door, and all those apartment buildings were emptied out as well. It was a huge police operation for basically the morning of Yom Kippur, I would say.
We live our whole lives trying to make a Kiddush Hashem. And then, I think about the Adrian fellow that you mentioned that I don't know how much time he had to really do everything he did, but he goes ahead and literally saves an entire kehillah.
Yeah. So there's 3 men who really saved an entire kehillah. But to be honest, there's more than 3. But there's Adrian who gave his life doing it. Absolutely. And he was such a quiet man. I still have the image of the speed that he moved from his seat to the door. It was astonishing how fast his reaction time was, and then that bravery. But then those 2 men outside, so Alan, who ran in and closed the doors, literally saved everybody's life. And Andrew, who was really badly injured, again he delayed that attacker long enough for the doors to be closed and for everyone to be saved. They literally saved everybody's lives inside the shul that day. And then you have Bernard, who also was actually very effective at the beginning in dealing with the threat, but then was very badly injured in the first stage. And then Melvin, who died at Kiddush Hashem trying to come into shul, and Yoni, who was badly shot by that bullet that came inside.
So once I do want to mention, I'm sure you're going to feel uncomfortable, but heroically you also and others are involved in making sure that door did stay locked.
There was a lot of people. I don't remember exactly, but there was probably about 10 people there, and there's a lot of people. There's also people doing first aid. There was a lot of people who did very, very wonderful things. First aid on Andrew, who was injured. First aid on Yoni when he was injured. A lot of people doing a lot of special things at that moment.
We're going to get back to the episode, but a few things. First off, on March 4th, 2023, 2-year-old Hadar from Shiloh was traveling with her mother when a terrorist car ramming attack left her critically injured. After days in intensive care, Hadar passed away, leaving behind 5 grieving siblings. Through therapy funded by Shiloh Israel Children's Fund, or SICF, her siblings began the long road to emotional recovery. These sessions helped them process trauma, rebuild hope, and rediscover joy after unthinkable loss. Sadly, thousands of Israeli children face similar pain. Terror and war have stolen their sense of safety, leaving deep wounds of fear, anxiety, and PTSD. SICF provides these children with life-saving therapy, offering creative approaches like art, drama, animal, and music therapy to help them heal when words are just not enough. Since October 7th, the need for therapy has skyrocketed. SICF now sends therapists directly to affected areas and runs open studio sessions where children can create art in a safe space and begin path toward healing. So many of you hear these episodes and feel inspired to do something. This is your chance to help a beautiful and vital organization. And when terror strikes our brothers and sisters, there's often little we can do, but this is one powerful way to help them heal. Go ahead and donate today at israelchildren.org/help. Again, that's israelchildren.org/help. I personally verified that they are legit and they're doing incredible things for Klal Yisrael. There's still so much more to this episode, but first, building a Jewish home is important, and today it's easier than ever with our good friends at Feldheim. First off, you'll get 10% off your purchase of the following Feldheim new books with the code word INSPIRED. So you go to feldheim.com, use the code word INSPIRED, boom, 10% off. Okay, first off, Let My Nation Begin explores our forefather Avram Avinu and its clear English story-like description with Medrash sources meshed in. This is a must-have for every Jewish home. If you've watched this podcast before, you know I love the Let My Nation series, and this deep dives into Avram, his story, his relationships, his actions, what he's done, his relationship with Hashem, his kid. It's amazing. Now, I know you're thinking, Yaakov, that's great, but my 4-year-old won't necessarily really enjoy that book. And maybe that's true, or maybe that's not true, but your kids will definitely love Tully Gets Hooked on Books, a really adorable story with a powerful lesson. And I personally really enjoyed it myself. And there's also the world famous Amiram series with Rav Huna, Rav Yehuda, and Rebbe Lazar ben Padus. Comic-like, really interesting, and your kids will eat it up. Now, if you come to the L'Chaim Studios, we have so many books. This is the #1 book that people come in and say like, oh, could I take this for my kids? And we usually let them, and then we just go ahead and get more of them. Again, all our L'Chaim Book Club members, which is you, will get 10% off with the code INSPIRE on feldheim.com, and of course, available in any Jewish bookstore. These are instant classics, so go ahead and buy some for your family today. Now back to my conversation with Rabbi Walker. Once the evacuation started, I imagine the entire scene for every single person there was extremely jarring. But for you as the Rav, the leader of the shul, what role did you feel that you had at that point? Or maybe you're not even thinking about that.
So to be honest, what happened, it was very obviously confusing time. So we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if this is, it's hard to explain how little sense of depth perception, if that's the right word to use, that you have in that kind of situation. You don't really understand what's going on. It's all very much moment to moment. So none of us even realized that davening wouldn't start again in 5 minutes time, if you follow what I mean. And obviously you realize that quite quickly, but in the first moments, it's just, so we were moved stage by stage. So we were moved into the main shul building, and then we moved into a second building. And it was probably in the second building that I started, and we were surrounded at all point by armed police by that point, who were just extremely kind and sensitive. Even though they did have to break down every single door in the shul, which is a little bit, that was a little bit traumatic as well. When you hear the banging and knocking down doors, and people don't know if it's another attacker, it's actually the police. Because they had to check every locked space in the shul building. That's their procedure, to make sure no one knows where attackers were hiding. So I guess it was in that hall there where I asked myself, okay, what's going to be? What are we going to do? What are we going to do now? And so I think at that point, my first decision was to try to keep people calm if we can, and we're going to do whatever the police ask us to do, and we're not going to lose it. We're going to try and keep it together as much as we can. That was, I think, my first response at that point. And then afterwards, when we moved from there to another place, that's when I started asking myself what we should do in terms of davening. What's going to be the more longer term. So it was very short term, then it was more medium term responses, if that makes sense.
And what did end up happening? Where did the people go?
We were evacuated out to a street nearby. It was extremely surreal. So we had the attacker was still lying in the car park in the front of the shul where he'd been neutralized. Again, the police were working on the assumption that there may well be other attackers. So all of the shuls in the area, schools in the area, there was lockdown. So every response outside of our area is huge because they didn't know if there was more than one attacker. So armed police formed like a cordon, if you will, and we walked down the cordon of armed police, and we walked out to another small area, then from there to another stage journey. And they seemed to just keep on realizing that perhaps how dangerous the device he was wearing was, and the kettle pushing us further and further away. I don't know, perhaps as it moved up the change of command or whatever decisions were made, we were pushed further and further away. So at one point we ended up in a street, and it was in there that we decided that we need to carry on davening, that this isn't, time to start thinking about medium term. And there's some very, very kind people bought us chairs, coats for people, because everyone just ran out with whatever they had on them. And at that point, it was my decision was we should try and continue davening if we can. And that's kind of like what we continue doing as we got moved from place to place in the course of that Yom Kippur. That's what we carried on doing, because we weren't going to let Yom Kippur stop.
And we're gonna discuss how that idea still holds true. But when the world found out about what happened, obviously, we were all shocked, and it was so jarring. I personally remember two things that I saw. The first thing that I saw from the entire attack and everything that happened was there's a video of you. Again, I don't know. It was out there. I don't know halachically if I was supposed to see it, but there was maybe a non-Jew took it. But there's a video of you consoling like the members of your shul, because obviously they were just. It was shocking, and there's so many people crying, and I saw that, and I'm like, what is? I didn't even know what was going on. And there was another. There's a picture of you there and with your white kittel, and there's like sadly a blood stain on your kittel. That the contrast was very, very jarring, and just for what just happened,
Yeah.
An attack is never easy, but I can imagine on like the most special day of our year, Yom Kippur. Like, what does that mean for you personally that this happened on Yom Kippur?
So one was this idea that Yom Kippur has been violated, and we can't let Yom Kippur be violated. But he's trying to destroy Yom Kippur, and we're not going to let him destroy Yom Kippur. That was kind of how I saw it. I was in possession of all the facts. For example, I didn't know about Melvin until the end of the day. For example,
wow.
I didn't know about Bernard really either, the security man. So in my eyes, this person had attacked my shul and my community, and what he wanted was to destroy Kedusha, to destroy Yom Kippur. And my first thought was, we're not going to let him do this. This isn't going. This isn't going to be. It's not going to happen. So obviously, we're in a very strange situation here, and we have to go along with what we need to do. And there was a lot of things we had to do. But Yom Kippur was going to carry on. I actually stick back a little bit, and I wonder to myself why I didn't take my kittel off. Because it was stained. I didn't realize it was going to go. It's a picture all over everywhere. It was from doing first aid, or trying to do first aid on Adrian. It was Nifta. I didn't take my kittel off because I wouldn't let him even take away that detail of Yom Kippur, if that makes any sense. I wear a kittel in Yom Kippur. I wasn't going to not wear a kittel because of him. Bad enough my talis. I took my talis off early on, so I could move and so I'd have my talis, but I wasn't gonna lose my kittel. It's not to say a rational thought. It's a thought that this being is not going to succeed in any way of changing our Yom Kippur as much as possible. And so that's one of the reasons why, we realized we had to carry on davening, which we did.
how do you lead your kahila now? Because I'm sure, the entire event was so traumatizing and just, what's going on in all over the world, but, particularly the UK, there is a rise of hate. How do you, I guess, not focus on that or focus on what really matters?
So I think you've hit the nail on the head. So there is a need to focus on the hate. There is a need to focus on various political solutions and so on and so forth. And there's people who are doing that really, really well. And people I'm very close with who are doing it really well, and I support them. But that's not what my focus is. I decided that my focus is to make sure the killer lives in the spiritual sense. So first of all, in the sense that we would just physically carry on. So that was very, very important to me, that we would carry on. And that, I think, has been my message to my kid all along, is that of resilience, of rebuilding, of coming back, of continuing, of not being swayed, of not being afraid. And I think we're succeeding. And then, of course, we're going to Sukkot. So Yom Kippur is a very solemn time, but going to Sukkot is Man Simchasenu. So that even that simcha shouldn't be marred by what happened. And I think in many ways we succeeded in that. We still had Sukkot, still had Simchas Torah. Shabbos Bereshis was one of the most beautiful davenings anyone's ever had. I'm happy to talk about that if you want.
Sure.
But that was our answer, I think. That Kedusha continues, the davening continues, the Torah continues, the shul continues, despite whatever there is out there.
I know it's a heavier episode, but it's going to be filled with light. Just wait for it. But first, let's take a quick pause before getting back to this week's episode to talk about your future. If you are serious about success and just as committed to Torah learning, you've got to check out Touro's Lander College for Men, Beis Medrash L'Talmud. When you start your journey there, you're surrounded by rebbeim and faculty who truly care about your growth, both spiritually and academically. It's the perfect balance, strong Torah learning and serious academics in an environment built for students who want to achieve greatness without giving up their values. They offer a dual curriculum and even a medical honors pathway with New York Medical College and dental honors pathway with Touro College of Dental Medicine, where qualified students can continue straight to med school or dental school with 20 plus majors like accounting, computer science, finance, biology, psychology, political science, and pre-professional tracks such as pre-law, pre-dentistry, and pre-engineering. You'll find the perfect fit for you. And with academic advice, tutoring, and career support, Touro's Lander College for Men has a record of placing students at top firms and Fortune 500 companies, and also sending graduates to top-tier professional programs. So join their open house on November 9th, pick their brain, and see it for yourself. Visit lcm.touro.edu/open house, or you can click the link in the show notes. And your next step starts here. Go ahead and check them out. Now, we're going to get right back in. Last thing I have to tell you, buying or leasing a car does not need to be complicated, and it definitely shouldn't cost you thousands more than it should. And that's why I tell people, trust me, my friends at Wheels to Lease is the way to go. They're fast, they're honest, and they get you the best deal. Period. Yeah, you could ask them to price match. For over 35 years, Wheels to Lease has made the entire process unbelievably simple. No games, no shtick, no pressure, no showroom visits even. You tell them what you want and they take care of everything from finding the car to delivering it to your door to getting you the best price. They're secret, they're dialed into the market, and they know how to negotiate for your behalf. And they generally care about you saving you money. So you'll skip the stress and still get the best price on any make, any model, and new or used, no matter what. I've used them, I sent friends to them, and their secret sauce is they know that when they give you the best deal, you'll be coming back to them and they'll continue to give you the best deal so they could get your business for years to come. And that's why so many people love them. Call 718-871-8715, 718-871-8715. You can send them an email, inspire@wheelstolease.com, or you can visit the website, wheelstolease.com/inspire. And now you're like, I only use WhatsApp. Great. You click the link in the show notes, boom, you get an instant message to Saul and he will take care of you. There's no reason to make it harder than it needs to be. Go ahead and use our friends at Wheels to Lease. Now back to this week's episode. And I believe that like every Rav, every shul, they always want, more people to know about the shul, more people to come. And of course, like spread the light. And you have this weird situation where you have so much focus on you, sadly, for the wrong reason, because some lunatics, I should say, came in and disrupted that. But on, I guess the silver lining is that, the whole world is looking towards you, and I guess they're looking at like, okay, this is what happened. Let's say someone not in your kehillah, someone in Australia or New York or Israel, and they're saying, okay, this is what happened. Now what? As again, people that aren't officially part of your shul, but we're looking towards you. Like, what advice would you give to them?
Yeah. So I wouldn't necessarily say silver lining. I think that's taking you a bit far. But yes, we have to find the light everywhere in the darkness. So I just want to show you, if you don't mind, we've got many messages of support. One of the other things that I really should mention is that, and how we are dealing with this, is that the support from all over the world has been huge. Within the kehillah in Manchester, the support has been beyond more like the level of achdus and chesed has just been astonishing. The support also from the wider society, from non-Jewish society, has also been huge. Support from of course, the king came to visit us as well, which was, I think, the best expression of that. But also we got hundreds upon hundreds of messages, more than we've had a chance to go through yet. I've got a 90-page spreadsheet of messages that I received of support, and that's just some of them. We haven't finished going through all the emails yet. So there was this tremendous outpouring of support, and one of them sticks in my mind. So I'm involved. I'm one of the one director of the Friendship Circle here in Manchester, and we got if you're familiar with Friendship Circle.
Sure. We did an episode on Friendship Circle, of course. Yes,
amazing.
Beautiful organization.
Okay. Yeah, so of course I get to be involved in Friendship Circle here in Manchester. So we received a message from a Friendship Circle in America, and the members and the volunteers were talking about what extra mitzvah they've taken on in support and solidarity with Heaton Park. And to tell you the truth, I've been trying to control my emotions as much as I can throughout this whole thing. How I am in private is not necessarily how I am in public. Because I think it's important that we have to be calm, at least in public. But I couldn't help crying when I got that one. I was literally, there was tears pouring down my face. It was so beautiful. I haven't had a chance to say thank you to them yet. Again, there's so many messages, but I'm going to. So that really is my message, that the main support that we can receive is that people are Meisafire, that they do, that this being tried to bring darkness and cheshech, and he did it in the name of his understanding of God. Right? His evil was motivated by his faith, which is a particularly dark and terrible thing. It's the worst blasphemy, the worst chil Hashem. To be motivated by belief to do evil is terrible. Terrible beyond words. So our response has to be that because of our belief, we do good things in the world. Like, we believe in Hashem, so we make people's lives better, so that we act with more kedusha, with more Torah, we daven more, we do more mitzvahs, we make this world a better place, not the exact opposite of what he represents. And I think that is the victory over. There has to be political responses and all of that, and that's really important. It's not my job. So I think that's my request from everyone, to try and do a little bit more. Anyway,
you mentioned that the king came.
Yeah.
We have a sort in America. We have sort of a concept of what a king is because we have a president. But we all know that it's not the same level. Could you? And also, I know the chief rabbi came. Could you explain what that signifies? The fact that he came down.
So first of all, I can just say the chief rabbi came twice.
Oh wow!
And that's also an example of something that I'm very, 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 very grateful for. And the chief rabbi came straight away. It wasn't in the media. It wasn't a public visit. But on the Friday immediately after the chief rabbi came to Manchester, met with the people who were in shul time, the direct victims, and gave us a lot of support. And that's not public. It's not out there. It doesn't need to be. But one of the things I'm also extremely, extremely grateful. When you're in a time of difficulty, you really remember the kindnesses. I really remember those kindnesses. Sorry, to answer your question about the king. Every American I've ever met always assumes that English people regularly have tea with the king or the queen. It doesn't work that way. You don't normally meet the king in your lifetime. It's not atypical. Most people maybe most people don't meet any of the royalty. If you meet any of the royalty, it's a lesser royalty, if you want. For the king to come and an impromptu visit with very little notice, put together in a week, was a huge privilege, and it really made us feel supported. The king ultimately symbolizes the country at its best, society at its best. And I think it was very, very important for us to realize that we're not alone, that society is on our side. Society does support us. So it's great on his personal level, but what he symbolizes was also tremendously important.
What advice would you give for someone who maybe didn't go through the same experience that you and your kehillah went through, but they've gone through a traumatic experience? What advice would you have for them?
So every trauma is difficult. Excuse me. Every trauma is different. That's what I meant to say. Of course, they're all difficult. And it's very hard to give advice to people because it can, has to be very personal. But what I've learned, if you will, I think the hardest part is the what ifs. I know that I received some support from, and again, other people I'm massively grateful to is therapists that have stepped forward and given us support for free. What ifs, I think, is something that often torments people who've been through a situation. Both what if I would have done A instead of doing B, and also what if something would have happened differently. The ironic thing of, if I give you an example, the ironic thing of it happening in Yom Kippur, at the time that it did, is that actually that was the quietest time for it to happen. So on Yom Kippur itself, if it would have happened 2 hours later, there would have been hundreds of people there. If it would have happened 3 hours later, there would have been hundreds and hundreds of people there. If it would have happened during Yizkor, for example, that whole area that he was contained in would have been full of young people and children. And then it never could have been contained the way it was. If he would have stopped his futile banging on the doors and instead had gone back and re-attacked people outside, there was mispalim arriving, there's people davening who were arriving, who were vulnerable, who when the police arrived, they were ushered away. But at that point, there was so many more things that could have been so much more terrible. Even a regular Shabbos at that stage, I think, ironically, because it's Yom Kippur, davening is quite long, so not necessarily does everyone get there at the very, very beginning. It's how it is in our kehillah, at least. A regular Shabbos is busier than it was at that point, and there's more children, more women, etc. So there's a lot of what ifs. So those kind of what ifs are like what ifs that I'm grateful to Hashem that it wasn't the other times. But I think people often find themselves with the what ifs, and it torments them. Like people lay awake at night worrying about the what ifs, and people who survive as opposed to people who don't survive can feel tormented by the fact that they were the ones who survived, and some other people. All of those, what I would call the what ifs. So I think for me, the main answer to all of those what ifs is bitachon. And the way I put it to myself is it wasn't our choices that got us where we were. It wasn't us. David runs the world. He made it happen at that point. He made it happen that this person was standing there, this person was standing there. It's not us. And so we can release the what ifs, because it's not, if I would have done something different, it's what happened is what David wanted to happen. And I think that's really the only way to get through any great challenge in life, but particularly a trauma and something terrible like this. The rota. So the rota that put the one man outside who's got terribly badly injured and didn't put someone else on that rota. So that rota was made by somebody. That's terribly traumatic knowledge that someone knows that he put somebody in that position. And for people who weren't on that rota, who took a later direct, all of that, and that causes terrible trauma. And so the knowledge that, again, that you wasn't your choice. That's not why Andrew was standing there at that point, and not the other man who originally was supposed to be standing there. It's not because you made a decision. the security coordinator who made the decision to say that he's going to be there, not him. It's hashgacha pratis, and therefore you have to let it go. That's the message that I'm telling myself every moment, and that's what's helping me get through this.
It's so ironic that, you just hearing from the interview, hearing from you, and just hearing what Yiddishkeit is really about, that again, I'm biased, but like Yiddishkeit is light. It's so beautiful. It's amazing. And then you have, the attacker and what they represent, like literally like killing and attacking people. Like it's just so stark. Like I even remember like there was, you and your white kittel and the attacker in like whatever he was wearing, but he was wearing like black, and it was literally like good versus evil. And it's so surprising for me that the world, like they just, again, like obviously in this scenario, people they knew the good guys and bad guys, but generally in college campuses in America, like they're a misunderstanding like what the true good is. What do you have to say about that?
I don't know if I have a good answer to that. I just do my little corner of the world. That's what I can do. I do my little corner of the world. I just try and plug on and try and be as best as I can be, and try and help other people be as best as they can be. I can't change all of society. It does make me sad. But then again, on the other hand, like I say, the outpouring of support shows me that most people do know where right is and where wrong is. Perhaps more people than we realize. Just because someone takes a lot of attention and gets a lot of airtime doesn't mean necessarily they're representative. I think maybe that's one of the things I've also learned from this as well. That a lot of the silent majority, a friend of mine said at one of the vigils, he said, silent majority shouldn't be silent anymore. That is true. But it is at the same time comforting to know that most of the world knows the difference between right and wrong, I think.
I want to end off on this note that there's a famous, I don't even know what he is, but I don't know if you're familiar with Mr. Rogers. Are you familiar with Mr. Rogers?
The name is familiar.
Mr. Rogers, he passed away, but he was a TV person, and he did programming for children, and he really cared about helping children, whatever. That was Mr. Rogers. Yeah. So Mr. Rogers' mother, he always quoted her, and there's a famous quote. She said, whenever there's a disaster or an attack or a trauma, look for the helpers. And I if you could speak to the family members of the helpers, because there were so many helpers, and there were two people who died als kiddush Hashem, to their family members, what would you tell them?
Let's separate the two things out. So the people who died at Kiddush Hashem, they know how special their family members were. One of the things that I've seen is just how special those families are as well, and how courageous those families are as well. We could have a whole discussion just about how wonderful they are and how wonderful their families are, and the pure emunah and the bitachon and the resilience and the ability to cope with challenges is really, really special. And when someone is murdered al Kiddush Hashem, they're a whole different level of existence, isn't it? It's a different thing. To the helpers, so I think at a moment of, exactly as you just quoted, a moment of risk, of danger, of trauma, that's when you have a choice. You either stand up and be a helper, or you're the opposite. And so many people. So all of those men inside shul who helped, the houses that brought out chairs. I mean, people were rushing to help. We were moved to like I said, we carried on davening. We moved to a local police station to be interviewed on the day, and we didn't have any machzorim with us. We wanted to carry on davening, so the police went to a local shul and they gave us a whole pile of sidurim to be able to continue davening from. I didn't even know where they were going. I don't think they realized it was us. They just knew the police and said, "You didn't need to daven. Can you give us please some sidurim?" And they gave us this pile of sidurim, right? The all of the first responders, the CST, who for days afterwards and till now, the security just who have been supporting us and helping us, shuls, so schools that lent us space, community centers that lent us space, My worry is that I'm forgetting people. But the outpouring of help in all those ways was so wonderful. And all those people are a massive, massive credit to themselves and to their families. Can I just share with you one thing that happened?
Please.
So like I say, one of the main things we wanted was continue. So we were able to continue davening. We didn't miss a single tefillah. So we davened in the street, then we davened in the police station, and then the Ile we went to a community center and we got together a very small meeting. We davened there as well. Next morning we davened in my house. Then we found a venue, and then we found another venue, and we didn't miss a single tefillah. Shmini Atzeres, when we actually managed to get back into the main building where it all happened. So Shmini Atzeres, we were able to do a yizkah. We did yizkah for Marvin and for Adrian, as well as the Klal yizkah. And then Simchas Torah. We were determined we were going to have a Simchas Torah, and so many people came to support us at that Simchas Torah, and it was one of the most beautiful Simchas Torahs we've had. We were blessed that Yoni, one of the young men who was injured, was able to come out of hospital and was able to come to shul and even do a tiny bit of our koffer. And when he walked in, the love, and I saw my killer, I realized how much love there is in my killer. I've always loved them, but I really love them. How? And I guess I was voracious. And so a couple of my colleagues, Rabbonim, local Rabbonim, got together and they sent out a WhatsApp. So by the time Simchas Torah finishes, this is now Thursday night, by the time they get organized, they send out a WhatsApp and to the kiddos saying, please come to Heaton Park Shul to support. And they organized special davening. We have a very great singer here called Buchi and his choir. And they sent out this WhatsApp and they thought a few people will come, how many people are going to come? And we had close to 1,000 people in our shul for Kabbalah Shabbos on that night from every single possible section of the Kehillah. And they came. Shuls left behind like a small minion in their own shuls, and then almost everyone else came. We ran out of Siddurim in like the first 5-10 minutes. It was like 4 people to a Siddur. And it was so, even before we started having, I was just standing there and I wanted to cry. I was just so grateful. My killer needed love at that time, and we got it. We got it from all the rest of the Kehillah. And so you're talking about helpers, there's direct helpers, but then there's even every single person that just came that night to daven.
That's really beautiful.
Not going to forget the terrible things that happened, but I'm also not going to forget all the wonderful things that happened as well. That made our killer still lives, our shul still lives, and we danced and we sang, and we're going to carry on singing and dancing.
Really beautiful. Rabbi Daniel Walker, thank you so much for taking the time. And also, like you mentioned, I know it wasn't so easy to go back and tell us about what happened. And I could hear it in your voice. And I know the pain is still there. And thank you for giving us a glimpse and also reminding us what really matters and what we should really be focusing on here during this time.
Thank you.
This was a very powerful episode, and as you could hear in Rabbi Walker's voice, he and his Kehillah are going through a difficult time. If you can, maybe now more than ever, comment something kind or empowering in the comment section. If you're watching this, it means you made it to the deep end, and we will show every single comment to Rabbi Walker. So please let him know how you feel. Share the love. Also, do you have family in England? Do you live in the UK? Please share what you're seeing and hearing firsthand. Now, before I get to our big surprise, thank you all for your support for this show. Whether you watch once a year or every week, just know we appreciate you. Remember, if you need a car, just call Wheels to Lease and my boys will take care of you 100%. And if you're looking to explore your career choices, Touro is top in the firm world. Definitely check out their open house. And fill your home with Feldheim's adorable and impactful books and use code word INSPIRE for 10% off. And help the children affected by the war with Shiloh's Beautiful Fund. Please open your heart and donate today at israelchildren.org/help. The big announcement is we have a gorgeous new website. Watching new episodes, shorts, and consumer content has never been easier. Definitely go ahead and go to livingchaim.com. And I could brag about it because most of the team at Living Chaim made this website. I had a little input, but it was mostly them. So shout out to Yehudis and Omar and Yoni and Esther and Sarah and Ellie and everyone. And there's probably people I'm missing, but thank you all for making such a gorgeous website. Check it out. It's really, really nice. And here's my thoughts on why Rabbi Walker is so special. You can tell a lot about a person on how they respond to pain. And when you hear about Rabbi Walker, you feel it instantly. His sensitivity, his depth, his quiet strength. He literally feels the pain for his entire kehillah. This is a man who faced unthinkable darkness. When a terrorist stormed into his shul, Rabbi Walker didn't run, held the doors shut, risking his own life to protect others. 2 beloved members of his community were taken that day, and yet somehow he, together with his kehillah, they don't let the hate take root in their hearts, because Rabbi Walker refuses to let the darkness win. He chooses compassion, he chooses faith, he chooses to keep building, keep comforting, keep believing in the goodness of people, and of course, believing in Hashem. And that's what real heroism looks like. Not just bravery in the moment, but the courage to keep shining afterward. Remember, inspiration's everywhere. L'chaim.
Living L'chaim.